Very well. Since we have just finished working on the Harry Potter series, I think it's about time that we delve into our next YA fiction series, and that will be The Alchemist, well, The Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel by Michael Scott. So yeah, let's just go on with it. Hi guys, I'm Immortal, and welcome to this new episode where we'll be talking about The Alchemist, book 1 in the series of Immortal Nicholas Flamel. And as always, these two guys here are available in physical and digital format if you want to get them. The links will be down below. And today, no, not today, today as the day I'm recording this, but on last Sunday for you, I uploaded the cover, title, and release date for my new book, and that is Candles, the first interlude in the War of Tears saga, also known as book 2.5. This book will come out on December the 1st. And before you ask any questions, no, this book does not have to be read for you to understand the series as a whole. However, if you read it, you will be able to get a hint of what is coming in future stories, okay? So check it out if you want. It's a very short book, less than 100 pages, and it does have information that might influence the story, that will influence the story in the future. So thank you so much, and let's go right ahead and go with the P.A.O, the possible smell addiction for this book, which is gonna be smells nice, but it could be better. I'll give it an 8. I'm happy today. I'll give it an 8. So once we have the P.A.O done with, we will officially begin with the author's biography. So Michael Scott is an Irish author who dedicated himself to walk around Ireland and trade strange, rare, ancient books that he had. So he traded them all over Ireland, and as he did this, he began to listen to and learn different Irish folk tales, right? So he became very obsessed with them. He was also, during school, his favorite subject was always history, and he was very hard into all those subjects, right? He loves mythology, and he always tried to learn as much as possible. And during his travels, he learned as much as he could about Irish mythology, memorized as many folk tales as he could, and eventually he published a trilogy of books where he wrote each one of them out. So those folk tales, he published them, and that put him into the radar. However, after that, he began focusing on other genres that he also loved in literature, so fantasy, science fiction, horror, even romance. And over 30 years, he has written over 100 books. That's right, he has written over 100 works since he began writing 30 years ago. Well, in a period of 30 years. I'm not sure if he started exactly 30 years ago, but yeah, he is a very, very, very prolific author, and his most famous series is by far The Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel. He was even asked to work on a short story for the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who. The episode was called The Nameless City, I believe, and it aired with, I don't remember more information, it was for the 50th anniversary of Doctor Who, and then he finally published this series right here. The first book in the Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel, The Alchemist, this one reached number 2 spot in the New York Times bestseller list, and then the sequel to this, which is The Magician, reached the number 4 spot. So it is a very successful series. It has a really, obviously not as big as Harry Potter, but it has pulled people into the genre of fantasy. It is a very nice gateway, as you could say that. It is a very useful gateway if you want to enter the genre. It can be used as an alternative to Harry Potter, and it is also very well crafted, right? I really enjoyed the books, and I think he is a very, very talented author. He definitely has a great knowledge of different mythologies, and definitely brings that into play in this book series. He also sold the film rights, but we have not heard anything about the film in a very long time, so it is possible that it's not being made anymore. So that's essentially it for Michael Scott at the moment. So now we can get into the the plot for this book. And the plot follows mainly Josh Newman and Sophie Newman, a pair of twins who begin working in this library. Josh works in the library, and Sophie works in the cafeteria at the other side of the street. And one day they discover that the people who work there, because they know that the people who own those places are a couple, they're husband and wife, they're married, they discover that those people are in reality Nicholas and Pernell Flamel, the famous 14th century magicians, alchemists. And they discover this because John Dee, another immortal who was Elizabeth I's advisor, he arrives at the library and attacks Nicholas Flamel with magic. And in doing so, steals a very powerful book called the Codex, or the Abraham's Book. So he takes it away, and because he takes it away, Nicholas and Pernell are not able to do the spell that keeps them alive, so they have essentially 1 month, or they will die. This also however, before Dee can take the book, Josh manages to rip off 2 pages, which are the most important pages in the book, because not only can it grant immortality, it can also bring back a very powerful group of beings called elders, that many of them, called dark elders, seek to destroy humanity and take over the world yet again, and Dee is essentially helping them return. However, without those 2 pages, it is impossible to do the final summoning, which will bring them back. The plot of the story follows Josh and Sophie alongside Nicholas and Pernell as they try to take back the Codex. Well, Pernell not really, because she is captured, but it follows those characters as they try to reclaim the Codex, as John Dee begins searching for them and tries to capture them as well, because Josh and Sophie turned out to be the twins of legend, so a pair of twins with a perfect golden and a perfect silver aura, and those twins are essentially extremely important in the world, appear in a whole bunch of different legends and myths, and they are destined to save the world. One to save it, one to destroy it, things like that. So the typical chosen one trope. So this is a very interesting story, and now that I have essentially described the plot of the book, we can officially get into the review. So let us start with the plot. And the plot for this story, it is, first of all, I need to clear up that when I read this story, I was already older than the audience group it is intended for, so I was already reading books such as The Stormlight Archive or Patrick Rothfuss, The Name of Wind, and things like that. And going from something such as Wise Man's Fear to something like this, which isn't, it's a change, and I did not enjoy it as much as I could have if I had read these books when I was younger. However, that doesn't mean that the book is worse than others. That doesn't mean that if you're older and you read literature for older people, that doesn't make that literature better. It just makes it different with a different audience, and I did not read this one at the prime moment I should have. So that may change my perception on the story, but I still think this is a very decent plot. So I really like how Michael Scott works with it. It is clear that he already has an overall idea of what will happen in the rest of the story, of how it will work out, how the ending will be, and it is definitely clear that he plans it out pretty much, at least at least makes a general outline of the story. Alright, because it is very clear that the characters are following straight paths leading to that ending, so he already knows what is going to happen, and manages to construct the plot around that evolution that has to occur to reach the ending. So each of the characters, which of course is always plot and characters always mix, but I like how the plot affects the characters and the characters affect the plot, and it all leads towards that ending that, now that I have finished the series, I can finally understand what it's about and can finally see how all this foreshadowing is already planned out to work at the ending. So it is a very, very interesting story. I really like it, really enjoy how it all works out, and I believe that Michael Scott really worked on it quite hard as he began developing the series. I also really like the characters, the different characters, because he develops them very well, especially the relationship between Sophie and Josh, who are twins. I really, really like how the relationship works, not only throughout this book, but throughout the whole series, how you not only see like their love for each other, but there is also tension. There is also this strange things that occur that affect the relationship, and I really like how that develops in this book, how it begins to brew. It is a very interesting concept, but however, I also really enjoyed the time we spent with Nicholas Flamel, with Perrinelle Flamel, with even John Dee and other characters like that. I think that one of the strongest points of this book series is that it focuses on many different points of view. It's not like other YA fantasy stories such as Harry Potter, where the whole book is from the perspective of Harry. This one is a little different. You have chapters with Josh, with Sophie, then with Nicholas, then with Perrinelle, then with John Dee, and each of these different POVs is worked in a very successful way. The author, Michael Scott, manages to make each of his characters unique and give them their own quirks, their own characteristics that make them completely different for each other. And even if you didn't know, it's not as radical as, for example, with the Wheel of Time, but you can pretty much get an idea of who is speaking based on on their word choice or their mannerisms, things like that. Their characters are very well defined, and I really like how Michael Scott does that. Also, his narrative is very, very, very easy to follow. It's pretty much like Brandon's, where the word choice is not that big, there's not that vast of a vocabulary, sentences are shorter, it's essentially easier to get by. And this is very well done because of the audience that this book is sent towards, right? There's nothing wrong with having a simple narrative. However, in adult fantasy and adult fiction in general, you can go everywhere from very simple to very complex. However, with younger audiences, you have to limit yourself because younger audiences naturally have a smaller vocabulary, so you cannot have that many of big and complicated words because they will not understand it at all. And Michael Scott works on that very well. He manages to use very simple words to express sometimes very complex ideas and very complex feelings, and I really like how he manages to do it. However, the biggest point that works in this book's favor and overall in the whole series is the world building itself. And it is definitely clear how Michael Scott has a big passion for folklore and lore and myths and legends, because you can really see how perfectly he understands everything that appears in this book's hundreds of characters from different societies, from Greeks, from the Romans, from the Vikings, from Africa, from Asia, from America, from all over the world. You have characters appearing, and each of them is treated in a very, very, very justified way, right? They are all treated as they deserve to be treated, and Michael Scott knows his mythology. He works on it very well. For example, in this book you have Hecate and the Witch of Endor, and each of those characters is very well done. Later on in the series you have others like Prometheus, for example, and or even Quetzalcoatl, and all of those characters, it is clear that he understands how they work within their role, their own cosmology, and he manages to connect all those different kinds of mythos and link them together to make a functioning past for the world's history, right? So it is very interesting. I really like how he develops it, and it gives this book a lot more respect from me. So my grade for The Alchemist by Michael Scott, I will give it a 76 out of 100. I think it is a decent book, a decent start to a decent gateway into fantasy, especially if you want to reach more complex things. Of course, the different aspects, from the lore to the world building to the narrative to the POVs, all of those things, it is a very decent way to enter into more complex fantasy with more characters, and I really recommend it if you do want to read more fantasy. Anyway, this will be all for today. I really hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you have, please leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Please check out my new book, Candles. It will come out on December the 1st. I am very excited for that one. And again, you do not have to read it to understand the future of the series, but if you do, you will get a lot more things that may be hidden into many, many, many years later after this. So thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you later. Goodbye.